What's going on, true Blazer fans? It's Tori, and the Blazers are finally back on the winning track. Now, I would have liked to recap this game a little bit earlier, but I've had some issues the past weekend. My laptop charger cord blew up, so I didn't really have my laptop for a couple days. I'm finally getting you guys this game recap for that awesome win against the Toronto Raptors. Now, I know Toronto was short-handed, but a lot of the replacements, Fred VanVleet in particular, played absolutely great. So even though the haters, or some fans even, might put an asterisk next to this game, I thought we played a lot better than we've been playing recently. But before we get into this game recap, stay tuned for Monday Mailbag dropping later today. If you haven't already done so, go ask a question on that video. And I also asked you guys if you want to see me do a weekly trade video. And over 60% of you said I should do it, less than 10% of you said I shouldn't do it. So I'm going to start doing weekly trade idea videos probably every Thursday. Of course, my schedule is always tentative because, you know, sometimes life happens, sometimes chargers blow up. Make sure to follow me on Twitter, guys. I'm trying to build that following on there. My handle is at ToryJonesYT. And also make sure to follow the True Blazer Fan channel at True Blazer Fan. There are links in the description below to help you out. So now that that's out of the way, let's jump into this game recap. Now, I've been complaining endlessly about the style of basketball in which we play, and I just gotta preface this by saying that having a game like this doesn't necessarily mean we changed our style of play. Now, we did move the ball a lot more, we did play more in transition, I'll talk about that later, but there were a lot of possessions where we just hit shots with a guy going one-on-one, or we were able to get better shots out of a basic pick and roll set than we normally do. I just know a lot of people try and correlate the two. Us playing well offensively means we're playing a better style of basketball, but that's not necessarily the case, even though we did have some improvements in this game. So first off, Toronto shot amazing. They shot over 55% from the field and the three-point line. They also shot almost 90% from the free throw line. Yet we still managed to pull out a win because we had 17 more shot attempts than they did, and that was due to us taking care of the ball and turning them over. They had 16 turnovers to our 8, and we also out-rebounded them on the offensive boards 15-8, so that's a difference of 15 in between offensive rebounding and turnovers. That led to us taking 17 more shots. A lot of that was just us finally being able to get those 50-50 balls that we've been struggling to get during this recent rough stretch. There was a lot of hustle from the Blazers, and they were finally playing with a level of energy that you need to see out of an NBA team. That type of energy is fun to watch. You had Seth Curry diving on the floor, you had Zach Collins digging out 50-50 balls in traffic, you just had a lot of role players stepping up and hustling, and those hustle possessions determined this game because the Raptors made it close in the end. We only won by 6. So a couple of those 50-50 balls go the other way, and we probably lose this game. They're very important. But we gotta talk about the bench, which had been horrible going up until this Toronto Raptors game, and then all of a sudden, they played absolutely phenomenal. Two things in terms of style of play that I thought improved for the bench during this Raptor game was they were playing with a better tempo and they had more ball movement. I think the bench needs to look to push and transition even if it doesn't have numbers, because I think we have players that are more suited for transition basketball than we do half-court basketball. You don't really have anybody there that can hit threes but also take his guy one-on-one off the dribble. Evan Turner can do a little bit of it, and I guess Seth Curry can do a little bit of both, even though he hasn't been doing so this year, but that's not really their games. Most of our sets are designed to get Dame and CJ in positions to score. Powerful positions because of who they are, but when you run those same sets for guys coming off the bench, it's not as effective. Granted, I wish we had better sets in general that would work for both the starting lineup and the bench unit, but pretty much all our players are catered to pick and roll and getting Dame and CJ the ball. So I think that's why we struggle in the half court and we get so stagnant with our bench unit. So I think we really need to look to push and transition, and we were doing so. We were getting Stauskas the ball with a guy not ready to close out on him, and Stauskas was able to beat that closeout pretty easily and drive the lane and make plays. Evan Turner also does better in space compared to trying to isolate a defender, so he was able to get downhill a little bit. He was able to get into the paint and make some buckets as well as make some plays for others. I also feel like Collins gets a little bit more confidence on offense when he's playing in an up-tempo system. He runs the court well. He's able to get mismatches in the post because the defense has to scramble. And I don't know what else to attribute it to, but it seems like when we're playing a faster style of basketball, it seems to benefit Zach Collins. You even had a couple lobs to Myers Leonard, who is decent at running the floor, and he can definitely finish a lob. So I think playing a more up-tempo style is what helped our bench do well during the first 10 games of the season. I think that's what helped our bench do well during that Toronto game. That's something that we need to see a lot more of. Better tempo too can lead to better ball movement, because you don't have to spark the ball movement with some sort of action. The defense is already not fully set. They're already slightly scrambled, so you're able to take advantage of that with straight line drives from guys who would otherwise not be able to get into the paint. Then being able to drive, collapse the defense, you have kick out opportunities, guys can cut. It just opens up the entire offense. What also helps our bench is Seth Curry finally showing up for probably the first time this season. He was phenomenal late in the third quarter and early in the fourth. He had 10 points in a very short time span for the Blazers, a couple threes, one off a pick and roll where he looked like Dame. He had his best drive of the season where he drove the lane and hung from about 5 feet and kissed the ball off the window with a defender in his face, which is something that he's been able to do for his career but hasn't shown so far this season. If he can add that, he will be fine. I think Seth Curry is the key to our bench because he's the only guy that can create his own shot on all 3 levels. Evan Turner can't shoot threes and his mid-range is iffy. Stauskas, he can shoot threes and he can kind of drive the lane, but normally you're not going to have him isolating and creating his own shot. So if the offense bogs down, you pass the ball to Stauskas and he has to create something. The results are going to be inconsistent at best. Curry, on the other hand, if he gets his rhythm, that's a guy who you can throw the ball to, maybe run a pick and roll with, and he can make the pass to that pick and roll big, or he can hit down that 3 off the dribble. He's such a lethal shooter that people have to play up on him, and that gives him some driving lanes. It also spaces the court, and his shooting is invaluable. Even though he struggled from pretty much every area of the game, his 3-point shooting has not struggled. He's been near elite in that category this season. However, all the other struggles canceled out that very good 3-point shooting. So hopefully he's able to correct those and have more games like he did against the Raptors, because his 3-point shooting is valuable next to Evan Turner. We were stagnant at the end of the fourth when the starters came back in. Our sets kind of bogged down and we resorted to a lot of Dame and CJ, but the Raptors were not playing good defense as well. They were committing 2 guys to 1 player on accident. They were scrambled, and wasn't necessarily due to us pushing the tempo. They were just miscommunicating on that end, and that led to open Dame and CJ threes, which pretty much sealed the game. Kawhi Leonard was able to pull up into 3 straight 3-pointers during that stretch, which kind of boggled my mind. You got to pick him up at 30 feet. You got to make him drive the lane when you're up with only a couple minutes remaining, because they're looking for that 3-point shot. That's pretty much the only thing that could get him back in the game other than an and one. So I didn't necessarily like our execution the last 4 minutes of the game, but in general, we played very well. Then again, everything's going to look better when you make shots. So next game is against the Clippers, and this is my short little preview for that. They've been losing lately. They started out very hot, was the best team in the West, but now they're looking more like the Trailblazers looked as of late. I do think they overachieved to start the season. I don't think that they're a top 6 team in the West. We lost to them recently. This is our 3rd matchup against them. We're getting the games against the LA teams out of the way quickly. And in that loss, we were switching our guards onto Gallinari, and Gallinari is able to shoot over 6'3", 6'4" guards. He's 6'10". He has a high set point, high release point. He's good from all 3 levels. So switching guys onto him is not a recipe for success. When we were doing that, our help defense was helping way too much. We had Aminu, who was guarding Harris in the weak side corner. He just buried himself in the paint because he was worried about Gallinari driving the lane. That mismatch basically warped our whole defense towards the ball and left great shooters wide open on the weak side, specifically Tobias Harris, who posted a career high against us. So we can't switch against Gallinari because it ends up with us having to deal with Gallinari scoring on us, or we have to overhelp and it leaves other great shooters wide open. We also got to have some energy with our bench unit because we'll be going up against Montrezl Harrell, who's probably the best big off the bench in the entire league, and he plays with an energy that's very hard to match. So we have to keep him off the offensive boards, we have to keep him from scoring inside the paint, and to do that, we just have to play with the level of energy that we did against the Raptors. This would be a very important game to win on the road, to break that road losing streak, and to also keep our momentum building from that Toronto win. So anyway, True Blazer fans, that's all I got for now. Stay tuned for videos dropping later today and tomorrow. Peace out. Go Blazers.